Hello and welcome to another episode of the ExpertCPG Commerce podcast. My name is Ryan Flynn, the founder and CEO of ExpertCPG Commerce, where we help brands reach more customers on Amazon and beyond. And today, I'm really excited to welcome to the program Korie Minkus from Rock Your Product. Korie is an amazing person who knows has a ton of experience in all things consumer products. So we'll talk about how she started her career in corporate and kind of honing her skills there and to these large, huge corporations. But then now she works every day as really this growth expert, brand strategist, and helping these brands scale, particularly brands. We talk a lot about brands that are maybe online only, D2C only now, and getting into brick and mortar. And maybe you're in a little brick and mortar and growing that. And you can just tell like Korie gets it done, and she comes in and she provides all this expertise for her clients. And she's going to provide a lot of that for us today as well. And if you're a brand that's maybe on Amazon right now, you're just like, we don't know if we're doing everything we can be on Amazon, or maybe you're not on Amazon yet. And we're like, we need to be there, but we don't know when we want to do it or how we want to do it. Or we hear all these horror stories. Please contact us, expertcpg.com. You can find out more about us there. You can request an account audit. If you're already on Amazon, we'll show you where some hidden opportunities lie and maybe some things that are working well as well. But typically there's a lot of brands out there that don't know everything they could be doing. We'll actually show that to you instead of us just telling you could be doing better on Amazon. Or again, if you're a brand that's looking to launch on Amazon, you don't know how to do that, we have solutions for that as well. So again, just go to expertcpg.com. You can contact us there and we will be happy to have a chat with you. All right, let's get on to the program today with Korie Minkus from Rock Your Product. All right, on today's show, I'm really pleased to welcome Korie Minkus to the show. Korie is the CEO and founder of Rock Your Brand. She's a global brand strategist, growth expert, speaker, best-selling author. Korie, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Ryan. I'm excited to be here. It's going to be fun.
Yeah. Definitely. We were joking before we started recording, we could probably talk for 3 hours. We'll spare the audience a 3-hour session, but there's just lots of stuff that we could just riff on and cover. But talk to us a little bit about you and your experience and like how you got into the industry of, consumer products and just give us a quick little backstory there of how you got into the industry.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm not really sure how I stumbled into consumer products, but I did when I was young and have been in the industry for over 3 decades. So it's been a great journey, and certainly have been able to live and breathe the incredible evolution of the consumer product industry, which affects all of our lives every day. And of course, I know for a lot of your clients, this is the world they play in every day, right? If you're a product-based business owner, you need to understand the world that we live in today because it affects everybody. But I started my career in corporate. I spent about 25 years working for larger corporate consumer products brands. And what I loved about my career in corporate was I spent time in what I would call smaller organizations under $500 million in sales. So anywhere between, I think the smallest company I worked in was about 30 million in sales, and the largest company was about $500 million. But what I found was that the smaller the company, the more opportunity I got to see vertically across all different departments and necessary experiences that a company needs in order to build a productive organization. And so versus being siloed into sales or marketing or product development or finance, I really had the opportunity to be able to experience all areas of business. And it really helped me learn how each of those different disciplines in a business are so essential to the whole outcome and success of a business. And so about 8 years ago, I left corporate really on a mission to find more. That was why I left. I really just wanted more. In fact, people were shocked when I left because I loved corporate. I loved my jobs. I loved my people. I loved the teams and all the things that went along with corporate environments. But I was really starting to feel for myself that I wasn't being challenged. And once I got to that point in my career, I felt that it was time for something more. So I thought I was going to go back and get an executive MBA. I actually applied for executive MBA programs. And being that I'm here in Chicago, and I know you are too, we've got amazing opportunities in Chicago for outstanding MBA programs, like really at our fingertips between Northwestern and University of Chicago and even Notre Dame's program. So a lot of really fantastic schools here. In the midst of all that, I got pulled into a different opportunity, which was to travel the globe and speak on stages and engage consumer product companies with who became a very good friend of mine, Kevin Harrington he was one of the original sharks from Shark Tank.
Yeah.
And when I realized in doing these live speaking engagements and meeting entrepreneurs around the globe, it became so clear to me that coming from larger corporate settings, that entrepreneurs don't have the same access to information as larger corporations do. And I thought
Mhm.
it was kind of unfair. Like, why shouldn't they have the same opportunities and exposure to knowledge and acumen and best practices so that they can find the path to greatest success? And so during 4 years of traveling the world, I spoke in 32 different countries
Wow.
in the world in a year. We would just go from one crazy great city to the next.
Yeah.
The same principles applied, which was entrepreneurs wanted to be successful in their product-based businesses, but they didn't know how to. And they were seeking the disciplines and the knowledge from people who had done it before them. And, the greatest thing of being an entrepreneur is that you get to learn new skills and expand your knowledge. Because most entrepreneurs start their companies because they either have a passion around a product or a mission to accomplish or some kind of purpose that they're on. And that's why they've really created their product. And so the last 8 years, I've been running my own consultancy company, which is an advisory firm called Rock Your Product. And we've become an award-winning international advisory firm, and we focus on business growth for brands specifically in the consumer products sector. So that's a little bit about me and how I got to here.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, what a great story. You meet somebody and assume how they get there. You might do some digging, maybe on LinkedIn, look at their bio, but until you get to hear somebody directly from them, it's great to hear your wealth of experience. So I have a couple of questions about that. When you were working in corporate, what was your favorite element of consumer products, right? Whether it be branding or marketing or finance or logistics or product design, what was your and has that changed? That was another follow-up question. Has that changed now, or do you still kind of love that piece of it?
I think it's a great question, Ryan, because the world has changed quite a bit, as we know, particularly in the last 20 years in consumer products, with Amazon coming on to becoming one of the leading retail distribution outlets, and it's an online retail distribution outlet. And when I first was selling in the years that I spent in consumer products, it was really to partners, it was to distributors, it was to retailers. So it was really about creating relationships at their highest level, right, with the largest retailers in the world. And I used to travel all over the world with Walmart and Target and, the largest retailers to help them to understand how to optimize their merchandising plans and things like that. When I started to have to understand direct to consumer and that whole
Mhm.
business, it was so uniquely different back then. In fact, I can recall vividly sitting in meetings where we would strategically plan not to talk about what we were doing online at the time because the retailer saw it as such a threat to what they were doing in their stores. And so the greatest evolution that has happened in the world of physical products, as far as I'm concerned, is that the pendulum swung so far that
Mhm.
most brands that I work with today are actually starting their business in the direct to consumer e-commerce world. And then we have to go back and teach them the world of dealing with distribution partners and how to negotiate deals and how to get dressed to go to a business meeting. I'm being a little facetious, but you got to actually get on an airplane and fly somewhere and go to a
Yeah.
meeting. But it's very different because for a lot of brands today, which is outstanding, they can start selling direct to consumer and generating revenue tomorrow. And not only are they generating revenue, but they're also generating validity of their ideas. They're connecting with the end consumer. They're learning valuable feedback. So there's so much that, quite frankly, 25 years ago, we didn't have that kind of pipeline, even 15 years ago, the type of pipeline that we have today to get in front of consumers. So it has switched dramatically. And one of the things that I love about Rock Your Product and the amazing run we've had over the last 8 years, and I'm very, very proud of the brands that we've worked with, but also what we've accomplished as an organization to collaborate with our clients to create the efficiencies and the sustainable strategies and help them to expand what they've done in their direct to consumer investment to create business offline. And that's really
Yeah.
what I'm most proud of for our organization.
Awesome. But I realized that I was asking you kind of like to pick your favorite child, right? We could both kind of joke about this as the parents of multiple children, right? But like, just to confirm, maybe hearing correctly, like it sounds like before maybe it was the relationships really that you enjoyed about the other side of it, right? Where you got to really develop the relationships. So now it's kind of like I don't know, I guess the rawness, I would say, of the D2C landscape of like how quickly products can be validated and you can get feedback from customers. You can start scaling. Do I have that right?
So I think what I appreciated most about corporate was the scale at which we had to deal with problems.
Yeah.
So I think that, I know that was my favorite job, but it was one of the things that I love the most, that I found the most challenging. And I love to be challenged, as I mentioned earlier in the podcast. I
Uh-huh.
love to be challenged, and so I loved the opportunity of the challenges. I remember an opportunity that I had with Walmart, one of the largest retailers in the world, and we were putting together a Black Friday promotion for them. And the maneuvering of this huge promotion, we were going to sell, I don't know, it was like 120,000 units in this promotion. And the deal was, it was about a $25 million deal that we were putting together. So we were working through all the nuances of not only the pricing and the product formulation and the promotional opportunities that we needed to establish, and working with the buyer to make sure that they were totally happy with how this whole thing was going to roll out, and then the timing, and and then navigating getting all that product to the US, and having it packed correctly on the pallets, and delivered to the stores. And I remember sitting in a meeting, and we were I had my own office in Bentonville, Arkansas, that I would fly down to, and I was there every couple of weeks just managing our Walmart business. And I was sitting there with the buyer and my boss,
Mhm.
and he was not happy with the way that the buyer was navigating the relationship. And my challenge in this opportunity was to take all these moving parts and to continue to massage through this partnership.
Yeah.
Because at one point in that conversation, I thought for sure we were going to lose the deal.
Mhm.
And so the fun in it to me was always being able to be super conscious around solving problems for everybody sitting at the table. It
Yeah.
wasn't just my boss or my company, because I work for corporate, and you got to represent them as well, but it was also the buyer and the retail. But then who's in the end game of all that is the consumer. And what are they going to
Yeah.
get? What is the consumer actually going to get in terms of the value and the product? And are they going to find it valuable? And are they going to buy the 120,000 units that we're planning, to put on to the pallets? So I loved the intricacy of all that. And to me, it was a lot of fun and very complex and very necessary in order to create the outcomes of things. And it definitely is a more complex world offline than it is online, in my
Mhm.
opinion. Now let me rephrase that. I probably shouldn't say that. It's probably fair to say that there's massive complexities online and there are massive complexities offline. And maybe that's a more fair way to state that. But for me, of course, it's second nature to me to work in the offline world. And to me, it's quite easy because, let's be honest, we can, when we're running efficiently, make money in our pajamas when we're selling direct to consumers. But in the B2B world and creating those business partnerships, it's a whole different experience. And so I think what I really appreciated and enjoyed about my 25 years in corporate was understanding the complexities of that business, to be able to help my clients today simplify those complexities and be hyper focused on what's important. So I hope I somewhat answered your question in terms of what was then and what is now. And I think the biggest difference is really the fact that most brands come in through direct to consumer today,
Mhm.
and then they go business to business. Whereas back in the world when I was working, we didn't have direct to consumer at the capacity that we have it today. And as important as it is today, it is an incredibly essential part of the business platform that you have to have if you're going to be a consumer product.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's go back to you mentioned really valuable when dealing with, buyers and large retail is those relationships, right? It was paramount, like you said, 20, 30 years ago. It's still, but I guess my question is how much is it still about relationships today? Because frankly, today, buyers are armed with so much more information, right? I remember reading, Sam Walton's autobiography of Me in America about all the data they had actually at Walmart back in the day. So they, you look at a retailer like Walmart, they had a lot of data, but now the data is almost like there's too much data, but you still got someone on any other chair across from you making that buying decision where 20 or 30 years ago, it might have been a little more on gut feel than it was, or we have a hole in this, on our offering here, in this aisle, we need something like this, versus today it's a lot of data driven stuff. Like how much, so I guess, going back to my original question, how important are those relationships? Are they just as important today?
So I believe they are. In fact, I think it's even more important because there is so much data
Mhm.
to churn through, and now we've got, AI technologies that are invading in that space as well, some of which are really not so useful and some of which, we're starting to see some benefits too. But when you're dealing with partnerships, relationships are everything. And understanding how to navigate those relationships are incredibly critical. If that wasn't the case, then there wouldn't be this massive expansion in, rep groups and distribution organizations and, networks, and buyers rely heavily on these partnerships to be able to understand which vendors they should be choosing to work with. So I guess let me say it a different way. One of the things, Ryan, we talked about was what was then and what is now. Now it
Mhm.
is so easy for companies to launch physical products. I mean,
Mhm.
with things like Alibaba, you can go
Mhm.
find a product, launch it, so quickly. You can launch a brand tomorrow.
Yep.
Literally, it's that
Yep.
fast. And we know people do. I mean, you're, an expert in Amazon. You know that people launch product on a daily. It's not that
Mhm.
complex. It
Mhm.
was definitely a lot harder before because we didn't have the channels of distribution that we have available to us today. The difference today is that consumers want to buy a brand that has authenticity, that has some kind of connection to a story or a person or some kind of mission or value or purpose. And really, business is no different. People want to connect with people. We just went through this major election in our country, and, this has nothing to do with politics, but it has to do with each of us had a politician that we connected to through this experience. Or if it wasn't the politician, it was their policies and it was their missions and their vision and their value. And that's what
Mhm.
we connected to. And I think all of us just went through that. And it was very polarizing, right? Some of us believed one and some of us believed the other. And whatever it was, we were very connected to every word, to every experience, to every. It's the same for product brands. And it trickles all the way down to buyer and personal relationships. And one of the things that I find fascinating is buyers really look for brand owners to present their personal stories upfront in presentations. And just like when you go on investor meetings, I work with, clients all the time in terms of, whether investing for equity or funding, or we're looking to get financial partners involved, or we're even just looking to get purchase orders funded. you know, they are such an important critical role in helping any partner understand the mission that they've got, the value that they've got, the differentiation that they offer in the market. But that comes from the people. And you probably know this, Ryan, but one of the most important slides that we make sure that we have in our decks when we talk to whether it's a retail buyer, distribution partner, or a financial partner is to talk about the people in the organization and the vision and the mission of the organization. So I'm going to say that, yes, analysis paralysis, there's tons of research that we do. And we offer our clients understandings of how to use analytics to be able to help. And you have to have your numbers and know your business and know the industry trends. And you have to have all that information. But if you have that without the personal side of things, I find it much more difficult to create those opportunities for brands.
Yeah. Yeah. It's great. Very well said. Very well said. That's a great segue to talk about, like, what do you consider some of those foundational elements that brands need to have a successful product, right? Whether they're starting, scaling, what do they just need to nail it? You talked about personal story, that may be one of them, but what else they need to really, I guess, hit mass appeal in the marketplace?
Yeah, and I'd like to contextualize that around a lot of times brands that come to me, Ryan, which is how we got connected, is because I work with a lot of Amazon expert teams that are working with brands that have launched on e-commerce and on Amazon or .com platforms.
Hmm.
And in that in that direct to consumer channel of distribution. And now they want to expand, right? They want to understand how to take their business and everything they've leveraged online to grow it. And so the perfect client that comes to Rock Your Product is that is saying, okay, I've done what I need to start establishing a relationship direct to consumer online. How do I leverage all those assets that I've created online to be able to expand my business offline? And that's about the perfect time that clients come to me, and whether they want to distribute into retail, or they want to get into medical distribution, or they want to go into, specialty channels of distribution, we help them through all those things. But what's very interesting, and this is where, to answer your question, it comes into play, is understanding that what you sell online does not always directly translate to what you're doing offline. And so oftentimes places that we start with is really down to some foundational components, which are important, which is looking at what is your, most people at that point don't even have a wholesale price for their product. But if they do, we revisit their wholesale pricing, we revisit their retail pricing. And a lot of times, I would say the first thing that I tend to do with clients is help them understand that when you're online, it could very much sometimes feel like you're on an island all to yourself. I don't know if you ever had that experience with your clients, but they don't realize that they're actually part of a product category until they say, okay, well, I want to go to retail and I want to sit on a store shelf. What is actually sitting next to me in terms of competitors? Or, okay, forget about the direct competitors, but what's sitting 2 shelves over that could distract the customer to go over and pick up that product to purchase it and put it in their shelf, and they forget that they need to be in our aisle to get our product. So there's a lot of new dynamics that we work with our clients on to understand wholesale pricing, even retail pricing, which a lot of times we'll go back and we'll reprice what they're selling on Amazon to be more profitable on Amazon, which is awesome. Yeah. It's always fun when I win with that one. When you can create more profitability in your product in Amazon and you win across online and offline platforms. So we go through that. We look at product packaging, certainly a huge shift for people who are selling direct to consumer versus on shelf. You have to have product that speaks to the consumer on shelf and understand that. And then, of course, all of the acumen that goes along with selling to partners, whether it's understanding how you're going to capitalize larger orders, right? We're used to online selling one product at a time. And it gets really fun, but also more complex when you have to start building case packs, which now you got to put 4 or 6 units into a case pack. And then how many inner case packs go into an outer? And how do you build, different kinds of shipping methods to make it, good experience for the distribution partner? So we get into a lot of nuances of best practices that when they go sit down in front of those buyer relationships and those opportunities, they're not only fully prepared with all the right answers, but they have the language and the knowledge of what's most important to that distribution partner. Because at the end of the day, the distribution partner may love your product, you may have amazing reviews online, but if you are not prepared to fully service their business, they are not looking to take on a vendor that doesn't understand how to service their business. So it's very critical that we get brands in a position that they have the confidence to be able to execute on the business that they're presenting to a distribution partner.
Yeah. There's so many elements that they don't think of, or brands, and naturally, right? Like you have these blinders on as you're building a company, and you're like, product packaging doesn't really matter in the e-com D2C world, right? Like, I mean, there is, people do put a lot of time and effort into maybe how the things are packaged when it arrives in a box from UPS or FedEx, but it's a little different than when it's sitting on the, shelf at Target or Whole Foods or wherever it may be, right? And so that's one thing that we see as well. On the inverse, sometimes we see brands that have done really well, maybe in the D2C, and this is where we typically find them, is they've done Amazon themselves up to that point. They're like, we can't do this anymore ourselves because we're just growing too fast. And it's like, it pains me when brands spend so much time and energy on great product packaging, and they put up their Amazon listing and they just throw up images, or like they throw up 3 or 4 sides of their product, each, and it's just, oh my gosh, this could be done so much better, because you've got to be thinking about that customer that is looking at it on the screen. And I always tell brands, and I'm sure you can resonate with this, is you want brands to have the same, look, and you want your brand to have the same look and feel to a customer, whether they find you on the store shelf, they see on Instagram, they find you on Amazon, or someone hands them your product, at their house or at a party, whatever it may be, right? Like you want them to have the same experience. And I think that kind of gets lost sometimes when brands do get these blinders on when they're just kind of thinking about one channel.
So, and I think that's a great point, Ryan. And the reason why, over the years, I've worked so well with company owners like yourself who are supporting the Amazon channel, because that synergy between both what you just said is absolutely 100% true. The first thing a consumer is going to do, just like the first thing a buyer is going to do that's going to buy your product, is they're going to go to Amazon.
Yeah.
So the reason why I know we'll be fast friends forever, and I am with my Amazon teams, is because at the end of the day, I work with brands to understand how to better understand the positioning of their product now that they've gotten off the island, which
Hmm.
then improves their ability to merchandise and convey the message to their customers online. So
Hmm.
back to improving their Amazon listing, so that, to your exact point, that what we develop and design in terms of the strategy in stores is now seamlessly represented in e-commerce. And so I 100% agree with you. Their images, their headlines, their bullet points. And what I find is that when I work with brands, 10 times out of 10, they have a different experience of their brand than they had before. In other
Hmm.
words, it's almost as if we're able to pull out of them, I sometimes say more passion, more understanding, more confidence, a richer sense of being, because now we've put them into a category of other people versus them being on their own island. And they understand that now they understand it's competitive online. I'm not underestimating what people's perception is of things, but what they see is a whole different relationship to how they can stand out from the crowd, which then allows them to optimize what they're doing online. And so again, it's a beautiful synergy that we create between what they're doing online, because it's so critical. Every buyer wants to know, what does your Amazon listing look like? What do your Amazon product images look like? What does your listing say? And what does your A+ content say? And then, oh yes, most importantly, what are those reviews? So
Yeah.
we work on that as part of getting them prepared. I mean, we develop an entire pitch deck and a sales. And there's times I've had people come to me with their pitch decks done and they say, oh, it's done, we're ready to go. And then once we start digging into things, and I'm very excited by watching brand owners. I don't care if they're generating $3 million a year in sales. I don't care if they're doing $10 million a year in sales. I don't care if they're doing $100 million a year in sales. They are able to have these aha moments going through this process with our team to understand how to best optimize their brand positioning and just make them stronger, what we call category leaders, so that they really stand out in the sea of opportunities that are out there. And again, it's not just direct competitors in their category, but it's consumers have a lot they get to spend their money on. So how do we optimize that communication? But it has to be synergized between what they're doing online and offline. So agree with your thoughts 100%.
Yeah, and speaking of what you were saying with brands being on an island, right? And they're their own little world, right? Not in a bad way, but then they do, even when they get to Amazon sometimes, like they maybe didn't strictly D2C before that, they get to Amazon and then it's, the reviews start coming in, maybe those initial Vine reviews or the initial early reviews or whatever it may be. And, it's not all, roses and butterflies, right? There might be some more critical reviews in there. And it's kind of have to coach the brand. It's listen, before you were selling D2C, people were finding you on your site by very targeted marketing, most likely, whether it be like SEO or you're in very targeted ads and you knew who your ideal client was. But now you're more mass, right? Like we're just, you know, people are finding you on Amazon. It's a little different. And same thing in the store, right? As you mentioned, it's like, how are people looking at you on the shelf versus the product next to you versus the product, an aisle over or whatever it may be. So it all ties back into that. So how do you, I guess when someone comes to you, right? You said a lot of times it's these brands are built D2C and hey, we're looking now to grow into retail. Do brands typically you work with typically have any retail, like whether it be specialty, whether it be, more regional stores, or are they just starting brand new fresh and don't know where to start?
So that's a great question. Thank you for asking. And we've advised and trained over 100,000 businesses. So they've come in all forms, shapes, and sizes. So I
Mm-hmm.
would say any of those that you listed. We have clients who
Mm-hmm.
have come to us who have only sold direct to consumer. We have clients who are pre-revenue who haven't even sold their first dollar online or offline. And then we have clients who have been on Amazon, been on their e-commerce, even are doing $10 million in retail sales. Or I had one that was closer to 40 million in retail sales, and they didn't know what they were doing. And so what they were looking for was a support system to understand everything from regulatory and legal issues, from systems, operational optimization. Maybe they needed to get their pricing better aligned so they were being more profitable in terms of what they were doing. So we need to optimize their supply chain efficiencies. It just, sometimes they're just growing and they need help with understanding how to bring in human capital and where to position people within the organization and building out teams. So we go everything from pre-revenue, working with patent attorneys, getting the idea, solidified if that's something that somebody's looking for so that they're protected, finding manufacturing facilities, making sure that we're manufacturing correctly, all the way through. I work on M&As and exits. So that whole process is something that we as a company have supported. And, I would tell you one of the most important things I do with my clients, many of them either have or have not done trade shows or pop-up events for their brands, and they're not familiar with the process or even where to go or invest. Helping brands understand their product innovation pipeline is such a critical part to brands growing. It's probably actually, if I had to say there's a secret sauce to something we do with our brands, it's helping them with their product innovation pipeline. Because you can sell a single product on Amazon, you can sell a single product on your website, but when you start getting into a retail or certain types of distribution channels that are going to have a merchandising or a theme or a look or a feel, they don't necessarily want to just bring in one product from a vendor. And so they want to know that they've got this greater capacity to work with these vendors. So I guess there's many areas of discipline to answer your question around that. I would tell you, what do we solve for? And maybe for listeners who are saying, hey, would Rock Your Product be a good advisory firm for our company and our brand growth? I think number one is we demystify the questions that a lot of brand owners have around how to grow into other channels of distribution. So I do have clients who come to me and they're in 3,000 offline stores and they've never even been online. So they don't have a website. They haven't been on Amazon. Of course, then I call up Ryan and say, Ryan, you got to work with this brand and we got to get them on Amazon, right? So it can be, they can come from online or offline, but I'm assuming most of your audience probably already has some knowledge or capacity within the e-commerce world. But we really have to provide the acumen that these brands need almost at any level to have access to the largest retailers in the world. So it doesn't mean we're going to go directly to Walmart to sell to, but it means that we have to start to prepare you and really take the questions out of the process. We are experienced. I have over 30 people in my team who work with my clients to help them in different areas of specialty to make sure that they're buttoned up where they need to be. And within that infrastructure, we make sure that really they gain the greatest amount of confidence in their business so that they can be prepared to go out and speak about their business to these partners. So we really demystify the challenges that they have in that channel of distribution. And then I say we de-risk for brands, because brands that are really focused on a singular channel or online, they're vulnerable. And so we help them to understand how to create more diversification in their business, which trickles down to, more revenue. It trickles down to, hopefully our goal was always to be more profitable, but also just to leverage the overall sustainable strength of the business, right? It's much better when you can go to your manufacturer and say, hey, I'm going to be producing 100,000 pieces this year instead of only 10,000, right? We get to optimize everything in the system. And then I think with that diversification that we help them to achieve, they can excel in so many areas of their business because now they're working with scale, which they weren't doing before. And then I think the last thing I would just say is just delivering really increased financial valuations for organizations. Again, we've got examples where we've taken organizations that are doing $500,000 in sales and we've gotten them to 10 million, or they've come to us at 10 million and now they're doing $60 million in sales. And I think probably part of the testimony to that is that I have clients who stay in our infrastructure for 3, 4, 5 years. They kind of don't leave Rock Your Product because as their business grows and evolves, They recognize that we have the efficiency to be able to handle their business growth as they achieve it. And so it's a relationship from that perspective. And I'll throw one bonus in. I would
Mhm.
tell you and invite any of your listeners, if they're interested in learning more about me and or our organization, I do love my LinkedIn because I came from corporate. So anytime clients want to leave me reviews, I do recommend they go there. But I don't tell them what to write. And I think if anything that I see that I love that I hear from clients, and sometimes clients will write a review for me after a year of working together, but we've been together for 4 years. So it just depends
Mhm.
on the circumstance. But what I love is their level of confidence that's exuded in why they loved our partnership, because they became better business owners. They became stronger leaders in their organizations. They better understand how to optimize their creativity and their intelligence. And there is no substitute for that. And I do what I do every day because I absolutely love working with business owners, the leaders they hire, the employees that they bring in to run their passionate brands. There's an energy that has to be part of every brand's growth. And I'm honored to
Mhm.
be part of that energy that they get to project to the world every day, whether it's online or offline. It doesn't matter. You got to have that energy. And we help to bring that within organizations and really manifest it from knowledge and tools that they didn't have before.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm sure your job is also part, psychologist, right? Or just because if someone's starting to grow a business, you go through bouts of imposter syndrome and, entrepreneurship, the highs are high, the lows are low. You're, running your own business. And then it's like, what got you to from 0 to 1 million isn't going to be the thing that's going to get you from 1 to 10, right? Or 10 to 100, right? So you kind of need to have these resources like yourself or just people in general on your team to get you to that next level because there's that form of I can't do this by myself. I need to have the right people alongside with me to take me to that level, right?
Ryan, they say entrepreneurship is the loneliest road because it doesn't matter where you are in the journey. Even if you're running a $1 billion company, you're kind of always responsible.
Hmm.
And even though you hire employees and you scale your business through partnerships and optimization and tools and systems, really ultimately the decisions all ride on the organization's leadership. And an entrepreneur who owns a business is that leader, and they have to set that tone. And it is difficult. I would tell you that, and I'm very fortunate that I have an amazing board of advisors, and one of my board of advisors, she's a, kind of a world-renowned doctor and psychologist, and she works with celebrities, but she also works with my clients too. And she is really brilliant in being able to, I have a couple different people in our network that we work with that really helps people to understand things that they didn't necessarily grow up and learn, in terms
Hmm.
of optimizing how they look at or understanding their relationship to money
Hmm.
or their relationship to how they perceive themselves in terms of how others perceive them. So there's all kinds of very philosophical things. And of course, mental growth opportunities. I've spent many years, when I left corporate, I spent literally 5 years going through personal development and learning and getting trained in all areas of personal development. Not because I really wanted to be my goal and what I do is not to be a personal development coach, but I think understanding people better and the challenges that they face internally that then affect the external outcomes of what they can accomplish. Not only has it made me a better person, it's made me a better wife, it's made me a better mom, it's made me a better friend. I'm just a better person for it. And I realize, unfortunately, a lot of entrepreneurs come out of corporate and corporate doesn't necessarily, in most corporations, they don't spend the time training people to have the skills that they need psychologically to be successful in their own businesses. And I can tell you, even when I went through the transition of leaving corporate and starting my own company, I went through a transition. I mean, it was a major transition. The first thing I did was literally burn all my black pantsuits as a woman. I was like, I'm never wearing another black. If anyone ever catches me dead in a black pantsuit, I must be having a really bad day because I don't even really own them anymore. But, bringing, which, we all have femininity. I don't care if you're a man or a woman. We all have a sense of femininity about what we do. But the beautiful thing about being an entrepreneur is that you get to script up who you involve in your business. And that is the
Hmm.
beauty. That's what you earn as an entrepreneur. And
Mm-hmm.
so finding good advisors, finding consultants or mentors, and like you mentioned, Ryan, evolving who those people are in your network. But I will say, one of the things that clients tell me often when they engage with Rock Your Product is, I've had advisors, I've talked to people, but what they realize the difference is when they hire an advisory firm that specializes in the area that they need most, they have said to me that they recognized how much they lacked by just talking to people who really didn't have a vested interest in their brand. I mean, it's one thing to give advice. Let's be honest, I have amazing networks of amazing women in business. And of course, we're always sharing ideas and advice. But to have somebody who actually customizes that advice to your business and does it in a very non-judgmental, but only to see your clients succeed, particularly where I'm at in my career, all I want is success for my clients, right?
Yeah.
We just stand on the heels of when we see them succeed. I just had a client who just texted me last week. She actually just left me a LinkedIn review, and I didn't know that she hadn't shared it with me yet, but she did in the review, which was super fun. That they just won a great honor with the Time Magazine Best Invention of 2024.
Wow.
And they were so honored at the time that we've spent together and the way that I helped them to understand better how to present their assets, how to protect their assets.
Mhm.
I have one of the greatest patent attorneys that I work with in business, but not just patents, but trademarks and copywriting and all the things that needed to be done and how to grow their product innovation pipeline and, get through all of the real intricate challenges that they've had to face to all lead up to we're now in retail. They're, optimized what they've done online to a great degree. They're getting new exposure beyond what they ever imagined they would get. Their business is just absolutely flourishing. Their communication with the consumer is so much better than it was. Anyway, it was a very exciting thing, right? I mean, that to me is not only an award for them, but it's an award for us as an organization. And I will be posting about it because I am proud. I'm proud of my customers who come to us with such passion to get to the next step, actually achieve it. And it's always awesome to get that recognition from third-party endorsers like Time Magazine or CNN or, whatever it is. And yes, you can buy media and you can, and certainly plenty of brands do, but it's the earned media, it's the earned
Yeah.
exposure that really has a whole different satisfaction level. And, I cannot be more proud of our clients when they achieve those outcomes.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely fun to watch clients win and be along for that ride. I definitely share in that and that experience. If you could leave us with one last thing, Korie, what is the one thing that most brands just get wrong? And maybe at the stages they start to interact with you. Like what do they most get wrong, and what's the easiest way for them to kind of solve it in your expertise?
I think the biggest mistake they make is not understanding their differentiators as a brand
Mhm.
and how that plays against what consumers are hearing today, both from other brands and from the general social media marketplace. Okay,
Mm.
so it's a new depth of understanding where really the sandbox that they play in,
Mhm.
and it's their commitment to wanting to learn more so that they can present as category experts. And this is the reason why, because people come to me often and say, and I have exposure to every major retailer. I have exposure to minor retailers. I could get them into any distribution outlet they want to go to. I'll connect them to any buyer they want to get to. I have a client right now who's trying to get into Michael's. Well, I don't have a buyer right now at Michael's that I can connect them to, but I have 5 different people who are working on getting that buyer's name for me right now. So we always can get you into a retailer or into a channel distribution you want to go to, but it's being prepared for those meetings that is what we
Mhm.
spend time focused on,
Mhm.
because that is actually the easy part. And actually making the sale is the easy part. The much harder part is servicing the business. And so
Yeah.
often brands think that they can do it quickly, and that is when they most often fail. And so it's slowing down that process and giving yourself the time, which is why I don't work with clients for less than 1 year at a time. And like I said, most of my clients stay with me for 4 or 5 years in the system. I've only been doing this for 8, consulting on my own. So,
Mhm.
Rock Your Products only been around for 8 years. But the point I'm making is that there has to be longevity. One of the worst things that brands assume is because they can get online and they can put a landing page up, or they can put an Amazon listing up, and they can start making sales tomorrow. And so it's a very quick, we all love living in a very quick world where things start coming. But, and Ryan, you probably recognize this with your clients, they start to soon realize that it's very expensive to play online. And it's very expensive to just be in one channel of distribution. And so leveraging that growth is very critical. And so I think the biggest mistake that brands make, and I tell people, when we get on calls and we do discovery meetings with them and they're interested, we are very careful about who we select to come into our advisory firm, because they have to know that they're going to have to roll up their sleeves and they're going to have to learn things that are going to get them uncomfortable. But I always say the more uncomfortable you are, the more unstoppable you become. And the more you give the universe, the more universe will give back to you. And so we have to work that process together. And as long as brands are patient and they're willing to do that, and I have companies who have 40 and 50 employees, and we get on group calls and we talk about what each team needs and each individual needs, and we make sure that we foster that experience within the whole organization, so that when you sit down in front of a partner, whether it's a financial partner, whether it's a distribution partner, whether it's a major retailer, that you can address their questions with such ease and expertise and confidence that you are a better brand leader by going through that experience. And so I encourage brands to consider that opportunity as they look at, how do they expand and grow, is knowing that they maybe have to slow down and learn a lot of new things that get them very uncomfortable before they really get to that next level of success and growth.
Yeah, I love that. That's awesome. This has been an awesome conversation, Korie. Tons of little knowledge bombs here you've dropped throughout. Last but certainly not least, where can people find you? Connect with you.
Gosh, that's a great question. So, in the world today, I'm going to tell you a quick story attached to that. So I've worked with Walmart for so many years. My husband used to ask me if I had a family in Bentonville, Arkansas, because I used to travel there so much. I said, one family is enough. I don't need to have another family. But it used to be in the day and age when you used to call Walmart.
Mm-hmm.
You used to be able to call them and literally someone picked up the phone, and it was receptionist at the front desk. And I find it so fascinating that today in business, it is so complex to get a hold of an organization. I don't know if you ever find that. You could find an organization on a website, and then they want you to submit something for them to reach out to you. So I do not believe in any of that. So I say, you want to get a hold of me, find me on my LinkedIn, email me directly. I'll hook you up with the right person or organization to get you what you need. You can email me at my name. It's Korie at rockyourproduct.com. I don't leave my week without going through every email to make sure everything is addressed in terms of outbound new opportunities. We make sure we facilitate those. And certainly you can find me at www.rockyourproduct.com, which is our website. And of course, I have Facebook and Instagram and all those things, my LinkedIn. But find us, because don't make it so hard and complex, and don't worry about, answering surveys and things. Just call me. I have my phone number on the bottom of every email I send out. Just call me. We want to get you answers. So we have a great team, and we will get back to you as quickly as possible. But I love LinkedIn, and I am a huge believer that a brand owner should be on LinkedIn. But if you're not on LinkedIn and you don't get a hold of me there, then just email me at Korie@rockyourproduct.com. I will do my best to respond immediately.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Korie. Thanks for coming on the show today. I really appreciate it. It's been a great conversation.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. This is a great platform you've got, and good luck to you and your business as well.
All right. Thanks so much to Korie Minkus from Rock Your Product for coming on the show today. Wow, just a ton of knowledge she drops. And again, as I kind of said in the intro, you can just tell that she's very deep on everything consumer products focused, whether it's finance, supply chain, product development, retail relationships, as we talked about, and can just elevate a brand from where it is currently to where maybe the aspirations of that brand owner are. So thanks so much again for Korie for coming on the show. And hopefully you got a lot of value for this episode. If you did, please rate, review us, subscribe wherever you're listening or watching this. It just helps us grow the platform and grow the reach of our audience. And that's all I ask of you, is to please do that, as it does help grow the show. And that's it for today's episode. We will see you on the next episode of the Expert CPG Commerce Podcast.